This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Hey, this is the champion of the 1%, Logan Easton Laroux, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today. The trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I am, of course, your host, James J, and it's a great day for wrestling because we are wrestling with the champion of the 1%, Logan Easton Laroux. How are you, Logan?
Hey, Jason, are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Thank you. Yep.
How are you, Logan?
I'm good. How's it going?
I'm good. Can you tell us what you got coming up next, and where we can find you on social media?
Yeah, I think my next match is going to be February 11th for Virginia Championship Wrestling. I'm defending the Virginia Championship against Desmond King, and again, that's on Saturday, February 11th in Norfolk, Virginia. My Twitter is at Logan Laroux, LOGANLAROUX.
And merchandise?
You can just shoot me a DM over Twitter, and I'll get you sorted with that.
Right, and all your social media links will, and the links to your merchandise will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox.
Awesome.
All right. Let's start off with a fun question. You're Logan Easton Laroux. What has been the worst butchering of Laroux that you've heard so far?
That's a good question. People say like Laroux, LaRouge, stuff like that. I think Laroux is probably the usual suspect for worst one.
Right, because there's an X in there. Alright, can you hear me? Yeah. So, yeah, because there's an X in there, right?
Yeah. It throws some people off. The French pronunciation, I guess.
Yeah. Alright, now let's address the elephant in the room. Earlier this month, you posted on Twitter that this might be your last year of wrestling. Can you elaborate
Yeah, this is probably going to be... What's that?
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I've been doing this since I was 16 years old, or at least I've been training since I was 16, and it's kind of feeling like it's about time. I think I would either, if I'm not signed to a contract, this will probably be it for me, at least at an in-ring role in wrestling.
So are your thoughts maybe transitioning into something else in the wrestling business?
I'd be happy to still be involved in some way, training, or if anybody wants me to give them feedback on matches or anything like that, but just somewhat of stepping away from the business in general.
And do you kind of have like a date of when you might, just hang up the boots, or is it just...
I don't have a specific show in mind, but December 31st of 2023 is probably going to be it.
Wow. All right. Well, let's get into, some of the things you've done. Can you tell us about your relationship with Cat Leapfrog? can you tell us about your relationship with Camp Leapfrog?
With Camp Leapfrog,
Yeah.
what can I say? I've worked there before. My other character, Blank, works there more often, but I'm not sure that Camp Leapfrog really totally exists anymore. I think they kind of merged with a company called High Tension Wrestling.
I was kind of saying that because after, Chikara kind of fell, that's kind of what all of the Chikara guys kind of went to.
Yeah, yeah,
There,
that's where a lot of us headed.
it does seem like it's like a close-knit family with a lot of those Chikara guys and girls, no?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I kind of came into Chikara as an outsider. I didn't train at the Chikara Wrestle Factory, but they welcomed me after a few years on the roster. Some growing pains there, but not in a bad way or anything. Just like kind of finding my place within that group. But yeah, we were all pretty close knit group there with Chikara.
All right. Can you tell us about your recent match with Colby Carino, where you beat him by KO?
Yeah, that was for a company called Fight out of New Jersey, which I believe is going to be. We'll be doing a few other things with Fight later this year. But yeah, that Colby is somebody I like a lot and I respect a lot. But sometimes you got to knock out the people I like the most. I use the rules in that company. Fight has a very specific rule set, and I use those to my advantage. And he couldn't withstand my barrage of knees.
I mean, that's impressive because Kobe, like one of the tougher guys out there, and knocking them out, like wow. So, it's very impressive because like Kobe is like super tough, and to knock him out like that, like wow.
Yeah, he's like he does death matches and all that stuff. But yeah, it, I might have used the ring post to my advantage in that case, but it's all right. It still counted.
Hey,
That's
however
not
you get the
swell.
W, you get the W.
Exactly. Get that winner's purse.
Exactly. All right. Can you like you competed at AEW, and that's incredible. But the one thing that I found really interesting was that you competed at Universal Studios, which was where the old TNA, now Impact
Yeah.
Wrestling, used to be, and so many incredible matches were there. Can you tell us about what it felt like to, wrestle in a building that's had such a great history?
Yeah, definitely. I was a huge TNA fan when I was like middle school, like, and right when I started training back in 2007. And I still like Impact, but like TNA on Spike TV, and even before that on Fox Sports One, I used to watch all the time. So yeah, wrestling in the Impact Zone. I know it's not called the Impact Zone anymore, but that was kind of like a personal accomplishment for me. And then I've wrestled a few times in the Nashville Fairgrounds that used to be back in the weekly paper TNA Asylum, and I definitely marked out, just seeing everything, remembering some AJ Styles and Abyss matches that happened there.
Definitely, that's really awesome because, you know, I don't think that building maybe gets as much appreciation as it should when it comes to talking about wrestling buildings. And I'm back. Uh, so I was just saying, it's I don't think that building gets enough appreciation when it comes to wrestling buildings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of historic matches, a lot of amazing, legendary talent has come through and wrestled on that stage. So for me, it was a really cool thing to wrestle there. And I actually, after the taping, I spent the next 2 days at Universal Studios riding the rides and stuff like that, which was fun too.
Hey, that's not a bad way to spend your weekend.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you also competed at the 2300 arena, correct?
Yeah, oh yeah, in ECW arena, yeah, with chikara at least twice, I think. Yeah, and that another, as a huge wrestling fan, always cool accomplishments to be in those historic buildings.
You are you able to take in that moment and say, "Wow, I'm in this building."
I feel like in the moment, not so much, but afterwards, kind of looking back, I think I can appreciate the opportunity to do so, and just kind of, for lack of a better word, mark out about being in those places you kind of dream of when you're training, and before that, just as a wrestling fan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us about Wrestling J Lethal? Obviously one of the higher level competitors out there. What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was awesome. I wrestled Jay Lethal back in 2010 when I was very, very new in the business. I wrestled him at a fair show, and at the time I was very new and pretty inexperienced, and he was really helpful and kind in putting the match together. And then this more recent time, I think we had a killer match. It's on YouTube if you want to check it out for Virginia Championship Wrestling. But I mean, we had a killer main event. It was like 20 minutes just back and forth, and the crowd was with us the whole time. Jay is obviously multi Ring of Honor champion, an incredible wrestler, and I'm so happy to see everything him and Sanjay and Jeff Jarrett and Satnam are doing on AEW. For me, that's always the highlight of Dynamite or Rampage whenever they're on.
Right, because you had a few run-ins with Sanjay Dutt early on in
Yeah.
your career.
Yeah, I wrestled Sanjay quite a few times before he kind of hung up the boots and switched to a different role. And Sanjay, I owe so much to Sanjay for just about everything I know in wrestling. I think he helped tremendously with, and this is my favorite opponent easily that I've ever wrestled with Sanjay.
It's crazy to me, I remember Sanjay Dutt when he was with Jay Lethal in TNA. So, and now people are like, oh, that guy that's with Jay Lethal on AEW. And I was like, he was a wrestler at one point.
Yeah, a crazy athlete. I mean, every once in a while you'll see the gifs of his springboards and stuff. Such an athletic guy, and obviously loves wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what did you kind of see in yourself when you wrestled Jay Lethal this time around that was different from the first time around?
I would say the biggest thing, and granted these matches are now 11, 12 years apart. I've grown, I think, a lot as a human being and as a wrestler, especially in that time. But I think I was fairly confident wrestling him and putting the match together and stuff. Like the first time when he asked me when we were trying to put the match together, he's like, "What do you do?" And the only thing I knew what to say was bump and sell, and he was just kind of like, "Oh, all right, okay." We'll go from there. And then I eased in a little bit and I told him my stupid young wrestler ideas, and he was friendly about them and helped us put them in a way that made sense. But this time I had a little bit more of a clue of what I was doing. Not that I have a huge clue still, but it definitely felt like a more, I don't want to say equal, but we called it together more so than just him correctly telling me the place I should be.
Alright. Now, I'm not sure what the connection is here. You tell me. Can you tell us about your relationship with Blank?
Sure. I don't know how much kayfabe you keep on the show, but I portray Blank as well as Logan Easton Laroux. That's my chikara character. I still do it here and there on the indies.
Now, it's interesting you're playing two different characters on the Independents.
Yeah, I haven't thought of it that way, but yeah, I mean, I've been doing since I worked at Chikara. I was still doing Logan, otherwise, and even though I wasn't under a mask, I was doing two different characters between Race Jackson and Logan Easton Laroux.
Is it somewhat? Let me phrase it this way: what are the advantages and disadvantages of wrestling under a mask?
The disadvantages are every time I zip and then unzip the blank mask specifically, I end up put my lip in the zipper, which kind of sucks and hurts. Yeah. Um, that being said, like, it's weird that being under a mask feels like more liberating and freeing than sometimes when I'm just myself out there. There's like a little bit of comfort to it, to be quite honest. When I first started in Nothing Indies in Virginia, I wore a mask. I was an executioner. I wore just kind of a generic black mask. Sometimes that was another character I portrayed. So when in Chikara, when they gave me the mask and it was time to portray the different character, I had some familiarity with like how to breathe while wrestling and wearing the mask and everything like that.
And I feel like we can't talk about Blank without talking about Still Life, Apricots, and Pears.
Yeah, that's Edith Surreal now, and
Yeah.
she's a fantastic wrestler. I'm very happy for all of her success on the independents. Before I officially hang up the boots, I think Blank and her need to tag again.
That's what I was gonna ask, because it seemed like you were obviously friends, and then there was that little period of enemies, and then Logan versus Edith, which was just mind blowing. It's like, aren't these people different people?
Right. Yeah. I'd love to mix it up with her again sometime down the road, either as Blank or as Logan, or team with her again. We'll see what the rest of the year holds.
Alright. Now, we could spend all day, talking about the who's of pro wrestlers that you've been in the ring with. One that really caught my eye was Meiko Satomura, the final boss.
Oh, yeah. That's the hardest I've ever been hit in my life, I think. And I've done MMA on and off for a few years, full contact sparring and everything like that. But Meiko Satomura's kicks, that's the hardest I've ever been hit in my entire life. She kicked me with a Pele kick, and I, like, immediately seeing stars. She's tough as nails. She's awesome, but I would not want to cross her in any way.
So not on the farewell tour, no Meiko Satomura.
I mean, I'd be happy to mix it up with her again. I think I might need to take a few days off the regular job afterwards, but yeah, she's awesome. That was an interesting experience for me as well. I think that was the first wrestler I've ever been in the ring with who she didn't at the time really speak a ton of English, so putting it together was a challenge, but I think in a good way, and I am really happy with the way the match went together. I think you can probably watch that on Indie Wrestling if it's not on YouTube, indiewrestling.tv.
Is it, when there is a language barrier, is there more, call it in the ring type of scenario?
There was some of that, and then, talking it over, we pantomimed and kind of stuff like that. There was six people total as well,
Right.
and we were with Ruby Soho, Heidi Lovelace at the time, and she spoke a little bit of Japanese, and the two younger girls with Meiko spoke a little bit more English, but still not a ton of English. But regardless, wrestling is almost like a universal language in some ways, to put it together.
Alright. Now, can you tell us about the ultra handsome super buff guy team?
Is that me, Berger, and Rhett Titus?
Yes.
Yeah. As far as I know, that's the only time that team has come together. Hopefully there's another time down the line. But yeah, we wrestled QT's factory in Baltimore. And unfortunately, we came up short, but I think we gave them a pretty good fight.
So we're not going to see the super buff guys in a trios tournament anytime.
Never say never. I can't speak any further on it.
What about Red Titus? Because he's been a rival of yours, so to speak, and now you were teaming with him in that moment.
Yeah, that's the first time I've teamed with Rhett. Very early on in my career, I want to say like maybe match 3 or 4, Rhett actually did a run-in and gave me a boot to the face and his old finish, the Razor's Edge. And then I wrestled him in a cage. We wrestled quite a few times, actually. Rhett, he kind of, I wouldn't say he was a staple, but he came down to Virginia Independence for a while. So, like, as far as more name type independent talent. When I was first starting out, he was somebody that I would see often, and I didn't have the opportunity to see a lot of other people come down to Virginia, which was way more secluded like 10 years ago. So I've always got along great with Red. I like Red a lot. I think he's awesome. And Berger, I can't speak highly enough as a trainer or a wrestler or a person for that matter. So it was an honor to be in the ring tagging with those guys, two guys that I respect a lot and like a lot.
Did he ever, when you wrestled Borgo, has he ever asked you put a little bit more ketchup on it?
Not that I know of, but probably.
From what I hear, he don't like mustard.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
You'd have to ask him, though. I'm not 100% sure.
Hey, I think that we could get into our next segment.
Okay.
Logan's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads. Weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Huh. Man, I'm gonna seem so boring. I'm trying to think if there is. I'm a pretty boring road trip guy, honestly. I just kind of just try to drive the night as far as I just go from point A to point B. I don't really go out to party or anything afterwards.
You've been doing this.
Well, I will say there was one time coming back from. I'm sorry?
Continue.
Okay. There was a time coming back from Canada. I don't know if this is going to be a road story so much as a road burial, but we were coming back from Canada and all of the major interstate highways through New York. I live just outside of D.C., so just take that interstates up. They were all closed, so we had to take all these scary back roads through like upstate New York and Buffalo. And I drove all the way down to Canada. It's about I think it was like a 14-hour drive. And that 14-hour drive back, the agreement was other people would pick up the slack and drive for me. I was with Prakash Sabar, Hype Rockwell, and now AEW referee Stefan Smith. It was Stefan's turn to drive. He drove about 20 minutes before we all agreed. Stefan was way too scary, the night driver, and somebody else just needed to take a shift. And then Hype Rockwell was going to drive. He also made it under an hour and said he was going to pass out. Prakash had, like me, also done the morning shift. And I said, whatever, I'll just do it. So I was up for about a full 36 hours that weekend, driving to and from Canada. And unfortunately, in back roads in upstate New York because the interstates were closed for some reason.
All right. There you go.
Yeah, I love Stefan. I love Hype. I wish they could have driven a little bit better that weekend, but that's fine.
Because I was going to say, I mean, you've been in this business for what, almost 15 years, and you don't have a weird or crazy story about pro wrestling?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just a boring guy.
Well, something that I found very interesting, you, or should I say blank, was in the Chikara Action Arcade Wrestling video game.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I only really had the opportunity to play at the final King of Trios when they had a working copy to play during the fan conclave. But it was pretty surreal to play as myself or a version of myself on an Xbox. It's kind of a mission accomplished, goal achieved type scenario.
I can imagine. I mean, you're playing as yourself. That it wasn't, a lot of people create the wrestlers in the video games. You were actually just a based character in the game.
Yeah, and it seemed like that video game had been, or at least we were told at Chikara, had been announced like as soon as I had started there back in 2014. And obviously, I know nothing about coding or anything technological, but it seemed like that game took a long, long time to come out, and I'm glad that it did. And it was, like I said, it was really cool and really surreal to be able to play as myself with some fans at the Chikara fan conclave thing.
Well, I don't know anything about coding video games either, but I know that AEW announced their video game at the beginning of the company, and we're 4 years in, and like 10 rosters deep, and we still haven't got that video game.
I would think for the developers, it's probably such a it's kind of nerve-wracking as like the sets change and, like you said, like the roster changes and all that stuff. You probably need to constantly take away or put in new information. I just can't even imagine doing that.
It's like, okay, put CM Punk in the game. Okay, we put him in the game. Okay, now take him out of the game.
Right.
Now there's this dog, there's this guy, and he's gonna bite people.
Yeah. Crazy.
Alright, can you tell us about competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments?
Yeah. I trained, like I said, I trained on and off MMA, mostly in college, and that was all encompassing. I was really more into Muay Thai and regular boxing than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or wrestling. But right before the pandemic hit, actually, to be honest, I was getting a little bored with wrestling, and I felt like my weekends weren't as full as I wanted them to be. So I started training again in MMA, and then I focused more on the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu part because, to be honest, I've been hitting the head a lot, and I didn't really think Muay Thai sparring was something I wanted to continue doing for much longer. So I did BJJ, and I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I love grappling, and after the pandemic really hampered my training for a while, but as it came back, I was like, maybe I'd love to compete. And my first competition, I won a silver in gi, and I won gold in no gi, and I've competed a few times since. Some good, some not, but I have all of my medals up on the mantle. I did a super fight last June. That's the first time I had to cut weight. Unfortunately, I was not a winner in the super fight, but I was really happy I did it, and I think I did better than I feared I was going to against a younger college wrestler, and I don't have much of a background in actual collegiate or American wrestling at all. I played football and lacrosse in high school, so I was happy with my performance. I wish I'd won, but that's all right. There's always next time.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is there going to be a next time?
Yeah, the last year I'd been a little busy with real life stuff and some wrestling stuff, so I'm a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and after earning that, I took my training a little more lightly, but since the beginning of this year I started to take it very seriously again. Probably in a few months I would imagine I'll compete again.
Alright. Can you tell us, why does Blink 182 always disappoint you?
The band Blink-182, why they always disappoint me? I think there's something, I feel like wrestling fans can probably relate to this, that you're nostalgic for something, and then a lot of times when they release new content, be it new stuff in wrestling or a wrestler coming back or a band coming back, it's hard to capture the same feelings listening or seeing them as they once did. But that being said, I'm a super fan. I'll be with them until they're gone or I'm gone.
Alright. I think that's a good way to go into our next segment, the colossal question. If they decide to make a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on the Logan Easton Laroux wrestling movie soundtrack up to this point?
Huh. Man, that's a good question. I guess Hail Mary by Tupac.
Okay.
That song that's by The National, About Today, that was in Warrior. And maybe Asthenia by Blink-182. I guess we'll go with those 3.
Alright. Solid 3 picks. Do you lock
All
it
right.
in?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do you lock it in?
Yeah, I guess so. Let's lock it in.
Alright. Now that we got the soundtrack out of the way, obviously the soundtrack comes before even the script is written at this point. Then casting. Who plays Logan?
I don't know. Dream casting, I guess, would be like a slightly younger Tom Hardy, or I'd like to say Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I don't think either one of those is super realistic. But I suppose either of those two. I don't know if you watched that series, The Bear, that was on FX and Hulu over summer, but I've been told I have a passing resemblance to that guy, so maybe him. I guess one of those three would be my answer.
Have them compete for the
Yeah.
the honor.
I'm sure Arnold would be dying to do it. So.
And every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be three people in your movie, and who would play them?
All right, so I guess Hype Rockwell, my old chikara tag team partner, has got to be in it. And I think I'd have him played by the dad from Family Matters. Who else would be in it? My wife would have to be in it. I don't know if I want to fantasy cast her with anyone because in the event she listens to this, I don't want to make her mad. So I'll just say my wife's in it, but we're pending casting. Who else would have to be? The owner of my wrestling school where I trained, I think, would have to be played by either John Goodman or the owner of the wrestling school from Beyond the Mat, whose name escapes me right now. And I guess I would say my good friend the Boar would have to be in it, and he would be played by big sexy Kevin Nash.
Sweet. All right. Now, can you tell us about being in a Sonic commercial on Monday Night Raw?
No, sure, yeah. It wasn't my first time doing extra work for WWE, but it might have been the first time I actually was there on camera at all. It was like a weird Sonic ad for Adam Rose while he was like kind of sort of feuding with Damian Sandow. That was the day that I just saw what being a WWE superstar really, like the day-to-day life could really be about, because we were with them for a few days and shooting that like minute Sonic spot. We did, I swear, it felt like 100 takes of it. It was like David Fincher was directing, but there was always something was a little bit off. It took forever to get that 1 minute spot. And then, Adam Rose, unfortunately for him, and same with Damian Sandow, were in the exact same place as the extras. It was like we took all that time to shoot it, and then we all just sat in catering and hung out until the show was over.
Did you eat any Sonic?
No, I don't know if this is giving away too much, but every bite that was taken for every take, he just spit right back out. That sound had been sitting there for a while. It was pretty gross, I think, by the time we shot.
Wow, that's disappointing.
Yeah, I've heard that's the Hollywood magic. A lot of times the food is not actually eaten, but.
Now is Sonic like your favorite fast food right now? Because you
No, there's I don't even know where one is around me in DC, but no, I don't particularly like Sonic actually.
Alright, well, you are the champion of the 1%, the 1% of the 1%. What is something super cheap that Logan likes?
Super cheap that I like. I mean, I like all kinds of junk food and fast food. Those prices are going up, but overall, like the Popeyes chicken sandwich, I know it's maybe passe now, but I cannot speak highly enough of that fried chicken sandwich, the spicy one specifically.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Alright, can you tell us about Henry?
Yeah, Henry is my dog. He was my wife's dog before my dog, but I've adopted him as well. He's a Cairn Terrier Chihuahua. He's very cute, but also very evil. He's kind of the terror around our whole neighborhood. But, I mean, I love him. He attacks me almost every night in bed, but that's okay. He's my guy.
That's great. It seems like you have a good relationship online.
Yeah, it does seem that the pictures can be deceiving. I'm not sure how he would answer if you asked him what he thinks of me, but he's my son.
Alright. Can you tell us about your love of Batman?
Yeah, I would say if there's anything I love more than my wife and wrestling, Batman is probably number one. Growing up, I feel like everyone who's my age probably has a similar thing where it's like your family has a few VHSs that you end up watching all the time. And for me and my brother, that was the original 1989 Batman and Batman Returns. So I watched those movies probably every day I was allowed to as a kid. And then on top of that, you know, Batman the Animated Series and all that. So like my formative years were really shaped by 90s Batman and wrestling. And my love for both those things has continued throughout. Yeah, I just love Batman. I can be a little particular about the Batman I like. I'm not a huge Bat Family fan. I kind of like Batman on his own, Batman making mistakes, not Batman as a team. But that's just my perspective.
So you prefer the Death in the Family arc or trade paperback?
Yeah, I like that one. I like year one. I like a whole lot. This earlier like Legends of the Dark Knight type Batman stories.
What's your is the 1989 Batman your favorite one, or what's your favorite Batman movie?
It's hard. I kind of pick and shoot. I think if I had to pick, like, gun to my head favorite one, it's the stereotypical choice, but it probably would be the Dark Knight. But I mean, Batman Returns is right there behind it, and I did really like the new Batman a whole lot, so that'd be very close as well.
If where is Mask of the Phantasm on there?
I really like the animated series, and I like Mask of the Phantasm, but I actually think that movie's a little overrated.
Ooh.
I like it a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I feel like it took elements of year one, but it didn't do that story as much as I wish it did. And then I think it has a bit of a problem with not like a full-on villain, because Phantasm's kind of the villain, but then Joker's also kind of the villain. I have some issues with the pacing of it. Again, I do like it a lot, but of the animated series movies, I think Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker is probably my favorite.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Logan turning heel and then turning back face right back again.
That's right. Some Russo booking.
Well, gotta give them what they want.
That's right.
Alright, on to a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
I'm pretty basic on pizza. I'm like just a cheese or a pepperoni or sometimes a buffalo chicken. If pineapple on pizza is the only pizza available, I'm not like, I won't refuse it, but I can't foresee a future in which I ever order pineapple on pizza myself.
What's your spirit Pokemon?
My spirit I'm not a huge Pokemon guy, but I guess I'll say Blastoise.
Alright, I dig it. We love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for THUG? THUG.
So yeah, wait, yes, I do, but now I'm blanking on that. You got to tell it to me, man. That's gonna bother me now.
T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail. 'Cause a Doug can't spell.
That's right. Yeah.
We love Tracy trying to keep the memory alive.
Yeah, he's awesome. He was and still is awesome. Those Nashville Fairgrounds shows I did, he was on all of them, and he was so nice to everybody, and just such a professional all around.
What's been do you have any stories you can tell us about Tracy?
He was a real cool guy. He came, he talked to all the young guys. He watched all of our matches, and like, there's plenty of times that a veteran or a name will watch the match or kind of watch the match, and like they just give generic like "slow down, kid" or like see one thing and just kind of harp on it because it's the only thing they were paying attention to. But you could tell he really watched the matches, and he really gave good, honest feedback about what was good and what wasn't good and what you could do maybe instead. I think this was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and I think his knees and stuff were hurt a little bit, but you never would know it when the bell actually rang. He still gave it all he had.
Alright, that's fantastic. Again, trying to keep the memory alive.
Glad to hear that.
Weirdest question you ever be asked on a wrestling interview. Would you ever consider wrestling a rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual rock.
Yeah, why not, man? If Brian Pillman can wrestle a pencil, I wrestle a rock.
I love it. Just for context, there's this wrestler named Psycho Mike that wrestled an actual rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match, an Iron Man match that lasted for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay, I did not know that.
Unfortunately, not a lot of people do.
Yeah, fair enough.
Alright, on a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Married, possibly with child, and hopefully doing okay financially. Like I said, this most likely will be my last year wrestling, so unfortunately not in a ring in 5 years, but if I could pass any knowledge or anything down to other people who want to be wrestlers, I'd be happy to.
Alright, and what is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what Logan Easton Laroux is all about?
If you can watch any of my matches with Sanjay Dutt, most of them were on Nova Pro, which is on Independent Wrestling TV. I think you can also find some of them on YouTube. Like we said, that recent match with Jay Lethal. I also had a match with JTG at the same company. Those are on YouTube at Virginia Championship Wrestling. My match with Eric Royal, also from Nova Pro, I would highly recommend as far as matches I enjoyed that I was in. And then I had one teaming with Penelope Ford against MJF and Alley Catch, which is also on Independent Wrestling TV from Nova Pro. And I guess that's like my short list of recommendations.
Alright, and I know for sure the Jay Lethal one is on there. I will find it and I will put the link to that match in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox for anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it again after this interview.
Alright, awesome. Thank you, man.
Alright, and since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Shawn Michaels.
Worst wrestler.
Bastion Booger.
You main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Jeff Hardy.
Ooh. If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Bret Hart.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Kayfabe is alive and well.
You would have also accepted taste great on toast. Squash. Fruit or vegetable?
Vegetable.
It's a fruit.
Is that right?
Yep, tomato logic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you're part of Squash Squad now, and that means a lot more.
Okay.
New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
I think the more trunk, the better, generally.
So complete coverage?
Yeah, I think you gotta go complete.
Alright, fair enough. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
No.
And
Is that a common thing? Do people do that?
well, me and my co-hosts have done it. We've gone into supermarkets and asked random strangers if they knew who Darby Allin was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I've never been a privy to that, a conversation about Darby Allin in the supermarket, so no.
Long story short, when at the beginning of the AEW starting, my co-host was having a argument with some AEW fans, and they were like, AEW made Darby Allin a star, and he was like, if I go into a supermarket, nobody's gonna know who Darby Allin is. So, long story short, I told my mom. She took exception to that. She asked somebody that she knew watched wrestling in the supermarket, and he said, "I don't know who Darby Allin is. I don't watch AEW," and that just became a running joke on the show.
Okay, gotcha.
And that is the correct answer. And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me, Logan.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me, James.
And once again, where can we find all things Logan on social media and your merchandise?
Yeah, merchandise and everything. Just go to Twitter at Logan Laroux, LoganLaroux.
Alright, and you don't have to type that into your Google machine. All of those links will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. Simply go into the description, click the link, and a new tab will appear on whatever device you're on. You have no excuse. Buy a damn shirt.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you for listening. This was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Pale One Coffee. Join us tomorrow as we interview Nils Hendricks. And you can follow us at Wrestling with Eve on Twitter and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and a whole lot more. You can follow me personally at JamesJ993. You can follow Scooter at ScooterDust, and on the Remix, the only live alternative commentary for WWE PLEs. Join us this Saturday for the Royal Rumble. Alright, Logan, when I say wrestling wit, you say entertainment, okay?
You got it.
For our very special guest, Logan Easton Laroux, Coleco Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.